So thanks for joining us, Michael.
Pleasure.
So when you're creating training plans and training budgets, what questions should you be asking yourself when you're sort of starting on that mission?
Well, I'm someone who likes to keep things nice and simple, so I think the first question I would always ask myself is what training really needs to be done, and who needs to do it. So that probably throws you into lots more questions, but they would be the main questions I'd ask myself, and I tend to use something like a training needs analysis to try and analyze that a bit closer and come up with a real who needs to do what type training sort of requirements, and then you can start budgeting on top of that after that.
So is that looking at what people are currently trained at, how are they assessed?
Yeah, so obviously part of that analysis is are they already trained in that, and you can basically get a specific number of people who are or are not trained for the topics that they're required to be trained in, and that will help you determine budgets and those sorts of things on top of that.
How do you determine what is good training though?
Okay, so good training is training that achieves what it's aiming to achieve in the first place. So if you're looking at good training, the first thing it has to have is an aim or an outcome that needs to be achieved by that. And so often I see training is done more for ticking a box, or we've already done it, and if you actually ask people, why are you doing this training, what is this training going to achieve, they can't really give you a definitive answer. So you have the aim, and then what makes the training good from there is, does it achieve the aims? Now the aims of course could be safety or productivity, or even just a desirable outcome for an employee, but whatever it is, it needs to achieve that aim.
What sort of leads on from that, what would you consider when you're looking at training with formal qualifications associated with them? Say a national certificate to level 4 for
okay, that's going to really depend a lot on the specific qualification that you're looking at and the worker. So just to give you an example of that, in Australia we have our work health and safety practitioners. I'm sure you guys do as well. And when we're looking at what is a standard for that training, there is no one standard, but there's probably a minimum standard. So we'd probably like our health and safety practitioners to at least have a Cert 4 in health and safety, and that's going to do pretty well for the average person. But if you're a work health and safety manager for a much larger organization, I don't think it will be enough. You're going to probably want to have graduate, master's qualifications for that type of job. So again, if you put that into your training needs analysis, that will spit that out. So I guess, how do you know what is the industry best practice? Go to industry groups. So in health and safety, there's lots of industry groups that you can go to that will give you guidance on that. If it's not health and safety, if it's more of a plant operator or something like that, again, there will be organizations that look after those industries that can give you some guidance there.
Great. And finally, what should you consider when you're looking at online training, now that everybody's sort of in a almost a quarantine situation, or here in New Zealand we're in a lockdown situation, and everything's moving online? What do you consider to be ideal for online training?
Yeah, it's a super pertinent topic, isn't it, at the moment, because all of a sudden online training was something that we sort of were looking towards, and it was maybe a nice option to have up your sleeve, and now oftentimes it's going to be the required option. It's certainly for the short term, it is looking that way. It is a tough one. The first thing I look at for online training is firstly the employee group. Are they going to be the type of employees that lend themselves to the online environment? And again, if it had have asked me this 2 months ago, I might have said that there's a certain group that maybe didn't sort of fit into that category. I think as time goes on, and this sort of coronavirus thing will probably push this on a little bit faster than it was otherwise going to happen. As time goes on, we're going to see that blocker become, that technological, both from a technological understanding and technological resources blocker become less relevant. We're just all going to naturally get better at dealing with the online environment. So that was the first thing. The second thing, does the training itself lend itself to online? And again, 2 months ago, I would have said, all these courses that have a very practical basis to them didn't really lend themselves well to the online environment, and they probably still don't ideally do so. But we're at a situation where we might need to consider out-of-the-box options here. So, we're looking at a little bit about how we can use people to record themselves for some of this practical competency-based training. I mean, again, from a technological point of view, everyone's got a high-definition camera in their hands or their pockets these days. So maybe we can use that type of thing better. So, that's where I'm sort of sitting in the online space at the moment.
Cool. Excellent. Oh, well, thanks for that, Michael. Much appreciated. And thanks for joining us.